Hello, sunshine. Welcome to Be Visible with Veronica, the podcast where bold conversations and soul-aligned strategy help you awaken your most powerful self. I'm your host, Veronica Bond. Get ready to stop dimming your light, own your magic, and finally be so visible you can't be ignored. Let's get visible. Hello, sunshine. Welcome back to Be Visible with Veronica. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about a community that I've been a part of since 2019. Oh my gosh, October 2019. That community is called eWomenNetwork. It's a global women's network that provide an opportunity for entrepreneurs to go to online meetings, connect with an online community, but also have established chapters or new chapters in their city. I'm the executive managing director for eWomenNetwork for just over 4 years, and I'm very proud to say that. It has been a true honor collaborating with this organization, and Sandra Yancey, the founder, and now new president, Brianna Day, her daughter, who's in the succession plan of taking over as CEO in the next few years. The thing that I love about eWomenNetwork is the opportunity to connect and collaborate with women all over the globe. I'm meeting them online. I'm meeting them at our conferences. I'm meeting them when I have the opportunity to speak at different chapters because you receive a speaker profile, and if you're a speaker, it's a good place to be. But more importantly, I want to share this story before I bring on a guest to talk about what her experience has been in the community. When I joined eWomenNetwork, I hated networking. I had networked from 2009 to 2014, and I kept leaving my home and my family to go meet people because I was told that's what I had to do to grow a business. I would go with my trusty business cards, and I would be all excited to share them and get to know people in a room, and most of the time they were cocktail hours or happy hours after work. They weren't, or maybe they were a lunch and learn, and I'd walk into a room and probably 80% were men. And I found myself unsure of whether they were interested in the company that I represented and who I was looking for to connect with, or in me. And it felt very used car salesman, everyone just running around giving everybody business cards. And I would go home with a stack of business cards, and if they didn't have a picture on them, I didn't always know, I couldn't remember who they were. I learned a technique later in life where you turn the corner, so that's when you know you're getting back to, and you put it in your pocket, and it's bent. So that's a good pro tip there. But it just felt truly uncomfortable. So thank goodness I had social media. So I turned to social media to build relationships. And I slowly started to put myself out there and build one-on-one community and then go meet people for coffee chats and lunches. Well, that started to become a very expensive proposition because I was doing that 4 and 5 times a week. So then I found myself staying at home more because I was looking at the ROI on the return of those conversations. And I also didn't understand how to protect my time. So I would go to what I thought was a 30-minute coffee or maybe an hour and a half lunch, and 2 hours later, 4 hours later, and I found myself sitting there listening to stories and building that relationship that I thought I was supposed to be doing. And maybe I was learning how to sharpen my sword, but it still was not turning into business. And I knew that the product that I was representing and what I was doing was valuable and changing lives and making a difference, but I didn't know how to put it out there. What I found is my online presence and my direct messages and FaceTimes with people, because we weren't Zooming then. That was a better way to build those local relationships. Fast forward to 2019, I hired my first business coach. I started a company called The Side Hustle Expert. Yes, SHE. It was a .com. And I jumped into that business, and she said, "You need to go to eWomenNetwork." And I said, "Oh, women networking, really? I don't know." And she said, "Just come and check it out." So here's the great story. I was so nervous, I left my purse at home, but I had my cell phone. I was so nervous that the dress I was wearing had this beautiful print on it. Don't ask me how I did this, but it was on inside out. Literally, I put it on inside out. It was a pullover. I realized I left my purse about 20 minutes into my drive, turned around, came back, so now I'm going to be late. My husband comes into the driveway, hands me my purse and says, "Babe, Before you walk in, you might want to turn that dress back around. Seriously, that happened to me. That's how nervous I was. But you know what? I went into that community that day in a room full of 40, 45 other women, and I felt so held, seen. I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel judged. I knew immediately that it wouldn't have mattered if I walked in with my dress inside out. Somebody would have come up and told me about it, and I would have gasped, like, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? But we would have laughed, and I would have been made to feel at home. And that's what I was looking for, a place to hang my hat. What I didn't know, and this was 2019, is that in 2014, I was given a book. It was an anthology that Sandra Yancey, the founder, had written. It had 35 different stories of women entrepreneurs, each chapter very specific to their growth, where they'd come, how far they'd gone, and what their dream was. And I had read that book in a day. That was when I stopped networking. So I hadn't networked with a community in 5 years. And I remember thinking, who is this Sandra Yancey? I need to know her. I want to know more about eWomenNetwork. I called the company. Nobody called me back. And she knows this. It's okay because they've developed and grown since. And I thought, well, maybe I need to call again, or who do I send an email to? And this was Friday afternoon. Come Tuesday, one of my dear friends who owns a med spa here in town posted pictures on Facebook. And there was Sandra Yancey, 3 days after I finished reading this book at a Women's Success Summit. I thought, I am showing up. I don't care. Where is this meeting? And she messages me back and says, oh, Veronica, I'm sorry. That was yesterday. So that was my first recognition, my first touch space, my first touchstone with eWomenNetwork, my first exposure. But fast forward 5 years later, when I walked into that room, I didn't realize it was an eWomenNetwork meeting. So much had happened in my life in that 5 years that I hadn't put the pieces together yet. So I'm sitting there at the luncheon and I'm nervous. The reason why I'm nervous is I actually was running four businesses. Side Hustle Expert was new and I didn't know what to talk about. So I was that introvert. I didn't want to talk about a business. I just wanted to talk about myself in terms of I'm just exploring, seeing if this is the right community for me. I'm watching everybody else, listening to their businesses, trying to figure out where do I fit in. Here comes the presentation, the pitch to join membership. I'm listening to Karen Millerwise, the then director, share about all these privileges you receive as being a member with eWomenNetwork. And then there's the picture of Sandra Yancey. 5 years later, October of 2019, and I wanted to cry because I knew I was all in. I whipped out my credit card and just said, here, I don't know how much this costs, but I'm coming into this community. I knew it was a place for me to hang my hat where I could grow in business, grow as a woman, grow in entrepreneurship, and grow with other women in the room that are further along than I am, and also coming up behind where I'd been. And I knew that I would be resourced, I would be seen, and I would be heard in an environment where I could belong. It wasn't about competition. It was about collaboration, about supporting other women, being further along on a ladder than they are and being willing to put a hand down and lift them up, and knowing that I could lift my hand up and be held and lifted as well. And at the end of that meeting, I looked at the managing director and I grabbed her hands and I looked into her eyes and I said, Karen, I want to be you when I grow up. And if there's ever an opportunity, if you're ready to retire, please reach out to me. In the process of all of that happening, COVID hit, and people didn't know how to grow a business online. In fact, eWomenNetwork had to immediately go from an in-person business to an online business, and Sandra had to adapt. And I'm so grateful every day that she did, and her team found a way to move forward. Because that year, I started interviewing what I had always done before, taking my skills on Facebook Lives and interviewing women in business all across the chapters. I would bring them onto my Facebook stream, and we would talk about how they're adapting, what they're doing, how they can continue to grow. If they had a brick and mortar, if they had a catering business, if they had a business where they suddenly were networking and now they don't know where to reach people. Fast forward all the way to 2021 when we're finally meeting again at our next Icon conference in Dallas. What I didn't know is that the chapter had nominated me for Business Matchmaker of the Year. This was the first time I had earned, well, I didn't know that I was earning an award, but that I had been nominated for something that I didn't put my hat in the ring for. I didn't know that 20 women wrote referrals on my behalf of why I should be the Business Matchmaker of the Year for eWomenNetwork. Well, guess what? I won 2021, this beautiful trophy as Business Matchmaker of the Year. And now I get to honor other business matchmakers in our chapter as the Executive Managing Director. What I want to share about that is this is a community that now has global reach. We're in multiple countries and cities all over the United States and Canada. And I have a guest here with me today who is a member of our community. And I've shared with you why I joined eWomenNetwork and why I became Executive Managing Director. I guess I didn't exactly share that story. Karen came to me in 2021, right after I won this award. And she said, I'm ready to retire. And I can't think of anybody else that would be better suited for this role than you. Well, I had just hired Sandra Yancey as my business coach. I was changing the dynamics of my company, and I knew I needed somebody who was 10x where I wanted to be. And so I brought in a coach, and I said to her, can I do both? Can I get this company, this vision, put all these pieces in place and get off the ground and be a managing director? And the answer was yes. But for the first time, I chose to not jump through the timeline of somebody else's hoops of what they needed. I put it in a growth strategy that made sense for Veronica. And Karen waited. So February 2022, I signed my contract. And here we are 4 years later. And we've grown to over 220 members of our chapter. We have over 160-ish that are active, but globally, thousands, tens of thousands of women that you have access to. And Devy Walker is one of those women who understands what it's like to be a CEO plus and have access to women all around the world. Devy, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
How long have you been a member of eWomenNetwork?
About 6 months.
Okay. What was it that made you realize you wanted to be part of this community?
Well, my friend Brenda invited me, and then you called me before I ever went, and you told me about the community, and I was so excited that I signed up before I even went to my first meeting. I completely understand your story about marketing. I hated going to marketing things, but there was something about how you were speaking and what you were explaining to me about the group that really, I wanted to be a part of it. And so I went to my first meeting, and like you, very nervous, but it was just amazing. Like the women, they were open. I got to know some of them, and I felt a part of right away, like just connected with a few people, right? And then I think after that, it's just, like always, there's a competition. Like if somebody's doing what you're doing in a leads group, they would only let one person, right? Mm-hmm. But there, it's like, it's not competitive. It's like, no, we may be in the same line of work, but we're completely different. And, you get over it and you start to see, well, what are they doing? How can that help me? And the speakers are amazing. Every month, the speakers, they blow me away. And even if they're talking about things that are way beyond having one store, I just look at it and I'm like, well, what can I take from this? What can I take from this? And I always take something. And I always walk out of there feeling like I really got some knowledge and I have some things to practice in real time. So I enjoy the women. And I think we should have a big Christmas party at your house.
Well, no, we'll do it where we meet. With that many women and growing fast every single month, it's pretty incredible the expansion we've reached. And I love that we now have, I think I looked the other day, over 100 online meetings. So as a member of one chapter, you have access to all the other chapters. You have an online profile. You have a speaker profile. I show you how to maximize that membership. And we have incredible managing directors all across the country and in all sorts of cities. And they're growing beautiful chapters as well. And I think for me, what I love hearing you say is you felt like you belonged. Mm-hmm. And there was a sense of camaraderie. You no longer felt like a solopreneur. I hear that quite often. And every Monday, Sandra Yancey, her whole goal is to help 1 million women achieve $1 million in gross annual revenue. And if you see that on the front of the website, you'll see that and you'll see the story. And I loved that. And I love part of her story where she shares she no longer wanted to, she stopped waiting to be invited to have a seat at the table and brought her own chair. I mean,
love that.
How powerful is that? That's pretty powerful.
Very powerful.
Let's go bring our own chair to the table. And last year, we had 14 brand new millionaires walk across the stage at our conference in Dallas. We nominated and made it to a millionaire as our Phoenix chapter, and we have a new made it to a millionaire this year. And so our chapter is growing not just in depth of businesses and entrepreneurs, whether they're bold startups, if they've been around for 30, 35 years like you have, but they're achieving an income status that only about just over 1% of all entrepreneurs achieve, of women that are women.
Wow.
Reaching $1 million in gross annual revenue. And you know, Devy, the other thing you and I were talking about, and you've donated an item for this often, is our foundation. I believe we've raised almost $60,000 since I've been executive managing director for our local nonprofits.
That's great.
It's so near and dear to my heart. And we nominate, we give a grant to a local nonprofit that's not international, and it focuses on women and children. And every year they open up the grant, the FemTour Awards they're called, and you can apply as a grant, but then they become part of our community.
I love that. That's
And
so important.
We are top 2, if not top 3. Mainly, I say in 4 years, we are top 2 chapters for donations. We have such a giving chapter.
That is so important. You have to give back, and it just makes you feel good because you know you want to lift other women up, and that's what I really like is I see that in action in eWomenNetwork.
So we give our grants, and we also have an emerging leader. So we nominate an emerging leader every year, and that is a young woman between the age of 22 and 29 who is either supporting an entrepreneur or growing in business, or she has her own. And we've had some incredible young women. We have a new young woman, Marissa Roper, who's our emerging leader this year. And they receive all expense paid trip to the conference in Dallas in August. And that's August 12th through 15th. I think there's still a few tickets available for that for those of you who are looking and who want to decide if you want to come and learn more. So she'll be nominated on stage with all the other emerging leaders, and then they'll choose one out of all the nominees.
Wow.
So that's pretty powerful.
That
I'm proud
is.
of being able. And then I love that our chapter doesn't just look at a young woman as, oh, we're going to be here and mentor you and teach you something. We sit there and go, oh my gosh, what can you teach us?
Right. Yes.
You're 20-something years old and you're amazing. Share more about why you're in this role, what it is you're doing. How can we learn from you? And I think that's why we have so many young women joining our chapter as well.
You know, a lot of them are into AI. I mean, they're into things that, you know, I would never have imagined years ago would be available. And I just look at them and go, wow, you're a specialist in that. It's just like the room is so big with knowledge.
It is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And not just our chapter community, but there's a chapter in Tucson. There's soon to be a chapter, I believe, in the West Valley here in Arizona. but all over the country, and again, Canada. And there's a number of ways that you can get involved as a managing director, but also as a member. So if there's anything here that you would love to learn more about, I want Devy to share quickly what it's done for her business and maybe her personally as well.
So for me, just joining just gave me that sense of community, which you don't get when you work alone. When you're working alone, you don't get new ideas. You get stuck. And for me, like, the best part is just that I've gotten good support. Like, I've had a table at the eWomenNetwork.
The showcase table for your business.
Yes, and it does teach people about my business. People have bought things and supported me, and that's like a bonus. I get to talk about my business, but it's a bonus when people buy.
Yes.
And then just like the connections of like friends. Like, I feel like some of them are my friends. Like, I can't wait to walk in and give Andy a hug. It's just, there's some people that you're just so drawn to. And for me, I just felt like I just was so alone. And I just, I wasn't sure about joining a women's group. But there was no question when I walked in that room. And I'm probably saying her name wrong, Carissa Kelly.
Carissa Kelly.
Carissa Kelly. When she spoke, I think she's 28 years old.
Yeah, she was the National Emerging Leader last year.
Oh my gosh. And what she's done for the Philippines and for her country. I mean, how can you not be inspired by that? And the emerging leader. Like, those young women. I mean, I sat there the other day when we announced who it was, and I was jealous. I was like, wow, I wish I would have had something like this when I was coming up. I love what you do. I love what you do for other women.
Thank you.
I love what you do for the community. Like, it's something that I'm proud to be a part of.
I love that. And I know that's why we have so many guests attend our luncheon every month. That's typically the second Tuesday of every month. And we also have a wisdom circle. I do that every month. I facilitate that, and we do that in person. We move it all around the valley, so we can highlight businesses. We've had one at your location,
yes,
and so we do those online and offline as well, or online. I haven't had one online in a while, but throughout the country, they're called SBI, Strategic Business Introductions. But they're really these curated, if I know you're coming and there's somebody you want to meet, I call that person and say, you need to come to this meeting. So I'm always looking to put people together if I can, make introductions, and I love that I can do that for our community. And I just get to watch this growth happen in our community, and these businesses thrive, and women calling me saying, oh my gosh, I just hit 6 figures, or I'm doing more business now than I've ever done, or I've grown personally, and that's going to help me professionally. And that is one of the things I believe our community, and Sandra Yancey, the founder, has really found a way to craft those conversations. She does a call every Monday for our CEO Plus members from 8 to 8:30 Arizona time. 30 minutes of an Ask Me Anything, a mastermind, a Monday mastermind, an Ask Me Anything, a behind the scenes. And then we get to meet with the other community members on the 4th Monday of every month. And that is gold.
Oh, yes. Can I speak to the SBI?
Yes, please.
So the first SBI I went to, first of all, it's a safe place. Like, we go around the room and people talk about different things, and then you have an ask. Well, I'm like, I want to look good, but I'm desperate. So my first ask is, I'm like, I don't have a website, I don't have this, I don't have that. And just being comfortable enough to tell the truth,
to be vulnerable,
and people didn't go, oh wow, she's a loser, I mean, it was just like, it was the first time I could just tell the truth. I didn't have to pretend. So I love the authenticity and the safety, because it's hard to be in a safe place.
Thank you for sharing that. So if you'd love to learn more about eWomenNetwork, how to join our Phoenix Scottsdale chapter, please send me a direct message. Find me on LinkedIn. Look us up online, eWomenNetwork.com. You can also find Veronica Bond on LinkedIn and as the Executive Managing Director on our Phoenix Scottsdale Facebook page. Look for us there. Join us at a luncheon or at an SBI, or reach out and get connected and become part of our community. We're growing, we're thriving, and we're excelling, and women are achieving milestones in their business. Wouldn't you love that to be you too? Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Be Visible with Veronica. If today's episode sparked something in you, share it, tag me, and pass it on. Your presence has power, and the world is better when you let it be seen. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and keep showing up as the unstoppable force you were born to be. I'll see you next time.